Life is full of decisions. Making choices is never easy, and it can definitely help if information is gathered about the options that you have and presented in a way that clarifies the important features for consideration. One way of presenting the information that you have gathered is to compare and contrast the options. While this could be done orally through a presentation, it can also be done through writing, in what is known as a comparison and contrast essay. Let's take a look at the complete process of writing a comparison and contrast essay, from the very conception of a topic, consideration of the audience, research and organization, to the final submission.
Apple, banana.
Here's my assignment, Mr. Brandy. Why are you looking so stressed?
Well, my wife's parents are coming to Hong Kong and I don't know where to take them.
Well, there are lots of places you could go to. What about Ocean Park or Disneyland?
That's a good idea, but I'd rather not go to both. Which do you think is best?
Well, you would have to consider a lot of things. They are both theme parks and have similar attractions, but they're quite different in many ways.
I see. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you write a paper on it and put down those ideas? And then I can check your writing for you and give you some feedback.
The first thing to do is to brainstorm the following. What features do they have in common? Their similarities. What makes each place distinctive? Their differences. So, Peggy does some research on the two theme parks. It's important to do research. Things change, and you must have latest, accurate, and verifiable information. It's essential also to consider your audience. Don't state obvious things. Both places are theme parks, but your audience are intelligent people. They know this information. Don't include details that might not be so important. For example, the year the parks opened might be historically relevant, but not important for this audience. Also, wedding bookings, corporate events and season tickets would not be relevant to guests visiting on a one-off trip. Peggy first looks at the websites and starts to jot down some ideas. Here are some of the things she notices. Rides and attractions, food and dining, unique aspects. Using these 3 points, Peggy then looks for good examples from each of the theme parks to highlight the similarities and differences between them. She creates a table and starts to add in good examples from each park to illustrate the points. She also makes a note of how the theme parks differ. Having done some initial research, she now needs to think about how to organize this piece of writing. With a comparison and contrast text, you need to pay careful attention to how you organize the body section. There are 2 distinct ways of doing this. Peggy is not sure about this, so she pays a visit to Mr. Bramley.
Sir, I've done some research and taken notes of what I consider to be the most important points of consideration for your in-laws. Could you give me some advice on how to structure the body of this test?
Here is a visual representation of what Mr. Bramley goes on to explain. The first method of organizing the body is by using the point-by-point method. Here, each of the 3 points that Peggy has decided to write about has its own paragraph, and both Ocean Park and Disneyland are discussed within each paragraph. As well as giving examples of similar features, you may want to highlight any significant differences. The second method of organizing the body is called the block method. Here, there are only 2 body paragraphs, each dealing with one topic. Within each paragraph, more information about the 3 areas, rides and attractions, food and dining, and unique aspects, is explored.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And how do I know which method to choose?
Well, as always, you have to consider the nature of the writing, the audience, and the message you want to convey.
Mr. Bramley goes on to explain the merits of each type. The advantages of the point-by-point method are: it allows for a greater focus on the points for consideration. It does not require the reader to remember as much information. It avoids requiring a lengthy summary in the conclusion. The advantages of the block method are: it gives a richer picture of the two topics being discussed, it can make the writing feel less mechanical, and it is more suitable for shorter essays.
Come in!
Hi, here you are, sir. All done. I hope you enjoy reading it and that it will be useful for you and your in-laws.
This is good. This is very good. Thank you, Peggy. This is exactly what I need.
So there you are. By following these simple steps, you can plan your writing in such a way that the reader can clearly see the important areas of similarity and difference between the two things you're describing. In this way, you show that you have really thought about your options, which can help make decisions easier. If you want to see Peggy's finished essay, click on the link at the end of this video. You will also find links to explanations and exercises that will help you with the language needed for comparison and contrast.